Early morning, August 26, 1980. A routine graveyard shift at Harvey's hotel and casino quickly spiraled into a nightmare when an enormous bomb, disguised as a photocopier, was discovered on the second floor of the building. Accompanied by the bomb was a chilling ransom note that sent the FBI into a frantic scramble against an undefeatable bomb. What followed was an intense standoff in a bizarre series of unfortunate events. This is the true story of Harvey's casino bombing. In the early hours of August the 26th, three men dressed in overalls parked a white van with the logo IBM printed on it across the street from Harvey's Resort Hotel and Casino in Lake Tahoe, State Line, Nevada. They unloaded a machine resembling a large industrial-grade photocopier from the back of the van in the parking lot. Two men rolled the machine to the lobby and entered the elevator unchallenged. After arriving at the second floor, one of the associates wheeled it down to a corridor to an unoccupied office space. After carefully positioning the device, the men disappeared. At approximately 6 a.m. on the 26th of August, shift manager Robert Vinson made a bizarre discovery. He had found that both doors at each end of the corridor had their locks filled with glue and toothpicks. In the corridor, he discovered a huge steel device. It featured an alarming 28 toggles on the top. He made yet another unsettling discovery. There was an envelope left on the carpet. The title of the envelope read, Harvey's Management. He immediately contacted the security desk. They opened the envelope. It was a note. The letter claimed that the suspicious machine disguised as an IBM photocopier was a bomb. The note, titled Stern Warning to the Management and Bomb Squad, read the following. Do not move or tilt this bomb. Do not try to take it apart. This bomb is so sensitive that the slightest movement either inside or outside will cause it to explode. This bomb can never be dismantled or disarmed without causing an explosion, not even by the creator. Only by proper instruction can it be moved to a safe place where it can be deliberately exploded. Only if you comply with the instructions in this letter will you be given instructions on how to disconnect the first two automatic timers and how to move the bomb to a place where it can be exploded safely. I repeat, do not try to move, disarm, or enter this bomb. It will explode. The extortionists demanded $3 million in cash in unmarked, unbugged, and chemically untreated bills. Not only was there a bomb that claimed to be undefeatable, but there was a deadline. The letter had made it clear that the transaction had to take place within 24 hours. The note claimed that, if you do not comply, we will not contact you again, and we will not answer any attempts to contact us. In the event of a double cross, there will be another time, sometime in the future, when another attempt will be made. We have the ways and the means to get another bomb in. All guests and staff were successfully evacuated from the hotel within about 50 minutes, and a perimeter was established. The casino also made plans to begin evacuating huge amounts of cash and chips from the casino floor. Bomb technicians studied the device for hours. Experts didn't even bother with protective gear because their view was that nothing could protect them from a bomb this size if it went off. They were quite impressed with the thing. It was very nicely painted, had tidy seams, and was delicately welded together. They photographed it, checked all surfaces for fingerprints, completed x-rays, listened for moving parts, and took video footage and images of the entire device. Within a few hours, word of the bomb had spread across the country. Crowds filled the parking lot. News trucks gathered for miles. Experts' views were that they were potentially looking at the largest improvised bomb in US history. Harvey Grossman, the owner of Harvey's resort hotel and casino, was greatly upset with the limited options in front of him. He insisted that, "There's no way I'm paying these sons of bitches any money." So a compromise was discussed. Instead of providing the extortionists with the full $3 million from Harvey's casino, they would have bags full of money-shaped paper to weigh the bag, and then some $100 bills to lay at the top, which would supposedly cover them if the bomber checked. These bags were collected by Special Agent and pilot Joe Cook, which were loaded into his helicopter at a ski resort parking lot at approximately 11 p.m. In re-examining the extortion letter, it laid out that the money is to be delivered by helicopter. The pilot is to park at 2300 hours as close as possible to the Lake Tahoe Airport building. The pilot has to be alone and unarmed. He is to wait for further instructions, which will be delivered by a taxi that will be hired. The driver will know nothing. They may also be delivered by a private individual at exactly 10 past midnight. A little further down was an express note to the pilot. The helicopter has to be filled up with gas. Do not come armed with any weapon. Do not bring a shotgun rider. You are to have no communication with anyone after you reach the airport. Do not try to be a hero. Arlington is full of them and they can't even smell the flowers. We don't want any trouble, but we won't run away if you bring it. Happy landing. Special Agent Cook then flew to the Lake Tahoe airport as instructed, except he had a fellow agent with him, hiding in the back. Just before midnight, Special Agent Cook landed at the airport, where he refueled and waited for the next instruction. Shortly after midnight, the payphone rang. Your instructions are located beneath the table in front of you. You have 3 minutes. He immediately began searching and discovered that underneath the payphone there was a note typed out just as the extortion note had been. I remind you again to strictly follow orders. After you read these instructions, open the helicopter door and shine a strong flashlight through the interior inch by inch. We are watching you. If you don't obey, don't bother to take off. From the time you receive the telephone call, you have 3 minutes to get airborne. Follow Highway 50 to the west, on the right-hand side in a straight line. Approximately 15 miles west of the airport, start looking for a strobe light on your right. You have 4 minutes to land after the strobe turns on. Land facing south. Approximately 200 feet south will be an envelope with further instructions nailed on a tree 6 feet off the ground. Special Agent Cook and the hidden agent in the back took off, following the directions provided. 15 miles in, at the approximate drop zone, there was no strobe light in any direction. They searched, circling the area, for another hour until the fuel had nearly run out. They had no choice but to return to Lake Tahoe Airport and waited by the phone again, but it never rang.
There was last night an attempt to make a contact and a payoff to the extortionists. The requests of the extortionists were met. However, they did not show up in a second location after a telephone call had been made to set up the payoff. It was a $3 million payoff.
By the next day, explosives experts devised a plan they believed offered the best chance of disarming the bomb. Their strategy was to separate the top steel box containing the switches from the bottom box. The theory was that if the separation could be achieved almost instantaneously, it might prevent the detonator from igniting the explosives, essentially severing the brains of the device. While the plan was seen as the best available option at the time, it still carried a significant risk of failure. They briefed Harvey Grossman on the bomb squad's render-safe plan using the shaped charge and its high risk of failure, but felt they had few other options. By 3:43 PM, the surrounding area had been fully evacuated and the bomb squad had withdrawn. The FBI then ignited the separation charge from a safe distance.
We had a procedure that we felt would work. There was some error factor in that procedure. We had to take a chance. We did, and the device went off.
What's kind of interesting is that the T-shirt makers are already at work. There's one gentleman who has one over here that says bang. Other T-shirt makers are saying I survived the bomb. I bombed at Tahoe. All of this within the last 24 hours. So this kind of gives you some idea of the mentality here today.
Remarkably, no one was injured or killed. While the letter indicated the bomb contained TNT, it was actually dynamite, which burned much faster than the decapitation charge could act. The authorities now had a major job ahead of them: comb the huge crime scene and chase those responsible before another bomb could be planted. On September 2nd, 1980, FBI agents were dispatched to the Bellahoe Motel in South Lake Tahoe to follow up on a lead. This was after a $200,000 reward was posted for any information around a white Dodge van on the 26th of August. Motel owners Gerald and Nancy Domenico provided the registration card on which Nancy had noted the license plate of a suspicious white Dodge van. The owners claimed that it had been parked at her motel the night before the bomb was placed. It's reported that one of the men made suspicious drunken comments towards Nancy, so she made note of the van's plate number. The authorities traced the license plate to a 1975 Dodge cargo van. The van was owned by a John Burgess Sr., but further investigation revealed the van was actually in the possession of his son, John Waldo Burgess. A search warrant was executed on John Burgess Jr. What turned up was a house littered with beer cans, various baggies, and reeking of marijuana. His excuse for being in the area was to survey it for a potential marijuana field, alleging his van's battery had died, so he had left it there, hitchhiked, and returned later to jumpstart it. The FBI dismissed him as being in any way capable of being able to build such a sophisticated bomb, so they moved on. Many months went by and the reward was increased from $200,000 to $500,000 in May of 1981. That was until the FBI received a phone call from an anonymous caller who claimed to know the true identity of the bomber. The informant revealed that he had once dated a woman who had shared details of the extortion plot before it happened. She had learned about it from her ex-boyfriend, John Burgess Jr., who claimed that it was actually John Burgess Sr. who was the mastermind behind the bomb. The FBI immediately began looking closely at John Burgess Sr. He ticked many boxes for the FBI. Apparently ex-military, skilled at machining, a pilot, and was now deeply in debt, having lost an estimated $750,000 gambling at Harvey's throughout the late 1970s. On August the 14th, 1981, the FBI arrested John Jr. in suspicion of perjury before a grand jury, in light of the new information from the informant and a speeding ticket that contradicted his story. The FBI offered John Jr. and his brother Jim Burgess a deal. The FBI told them they might receive leniency if they told the FBI all they knew about the bombing. The boys then told the authorities everything. The FBI had learnt that John Burgess Sr. rented an apartment in State Line, Nevada, near Harvey's, in October of 1979. He was often at the casino, known for his high-stakes blackjack play, where he would eventually lose an estimated $750,000. He had been diagnosed with cancer and kicked out of his usual high roller suite at Harvey's. So in winter of 1980, John Sr. discussed his bomb and extortion plans with his sons, who did not actually take him seriously. But John Sr. was dead serious, and so was the IRS, who had filed for $34,000 in back taxes. On the 10th of June 1980, John Sr. and his sons drove to the Helms power plant construction site. They broke into an explosive storage area and stole over 1,000 pounds of dynamite. John Sr. then spent the next 2 months constructing the bomb. On August the 24th, 1980, after his sons refused to help, John Sr. employed Willis Brown and his son-in-law Terry Hall to deliver his bomb to Harvey's. That night, they drove to Lake Tahoe in the white Dodge van borrowed from John Jr. with the bomb in the back. Around 11 a.m. the next day, they checked into the Bellahoe Motel. They checked in with a false name, Joey Ivetto. But this is where the motel owner made note of the real license plate. Around 2:30 in the morning, John Sr. told Bill Brown and Terry Hall to clean up, dust off fingerprints, and drive the van to Lake Tahoe Airport to pick him up. When the van didn't arrive, John Sr. walked back to the motel to find the two struggling with a dead battery. They called a tow truck to jumpstart the van, and after starting it, they drove to State Line, stole and fitted a license plate from another van before unloading the bomb at Harvey's. In retrospect, we also learnt what had happened in the failed money drop. After returning home on the afternoon of August the 26th, John Sr. told his girlfriend, Joan Williams, and his sons that he had delivered the bomb to Harvey's, but he needed their help to collect the ransom. They drove 2 cars to El Dorado County. John Sr. and his sons drove to the ransom drop-off site, but realized they had forgotten a battery for their strobe light. As per their own instructions, they needed one to signal the chopper. They had to get a battery quick, so they hunted down an old Volkswagen parked outside a gas station. While trying to steal the battery, they were scared off by the owner, who came out yelling at them with a gun, so they fled. The men hurried to a nearby service station where they purchased a new car battery to power the strobe light and headed to the intended drop-off spot. Meanwhile, John Jr. had driven a few miles west where he used a payphone to make the call to Special Agent Cook, who was waiting at the airport. To make matters worse for them, John Sr.'s girlfriend Joan had actually crashed her car in the mountains on the way to the intended rendezvous point. They had missed the delivery. However, the instructions for the pilot appeared to be quite vague in retrospect. Later it was realized that the instructions from John Sr. were to fly to the highway and not follow it. So Special Agent Cook had actually flown to an entirely different location. John Sr.'s grand plan was to direct the pilot to land, send them to go seeking out an envelope 200 feet south of the landing zone. The envelope, however, did not actually exist. Instead, it was going to serve as a distraction so that they could leap out from the forest, hijack the helicopter, and proceed to fly it to John's girlfriend Joan, who was to be the getaway driver, and then head back to Fresno. But of course, this never happened. On the 15th of August 1981, John Sr. and his girlfriend Joan were arrested by the FBI. The following day, the FBI arrested the delivery men Willis Brown and Terry Hall, who were both later sentenced to 7 years. John Burgess' 2 sons both pled guilty for their roles in the bombing, serving no prison time in exchange for testifying against their father. Joan Williams was sentenced to 27 months. John Sr. was convicted in 1982 and sentenced to life in prison without parole. He died in prison from liver cancer in 1996. The blast caused $18 million worth of damage. John Burge's bomb remains a reference point in FBI training, with some agents believing that even today the device is undefeatable. Harvey's is still open for business in Lake Tahoe, with little mention or reference to the chaos of 1980. Thanks for watching.